This video is my first major update about my medical grade treatments with hyperbaric oxygen therapy for my ME-CFS. And in it I will be telling you about my experience with my first 10 sessions, as well as the side effects and also the positive things that I am starting to notice. So if you're interested in that, please hang around. But first, my name is Patrick Usher and I'm author of the book Understanding ME-CFS and Strategies for Healing, in which I break down some of the latest, most exciting research into ME-CFS and long COVID, and also talk about the various treatment strategies that I have tried in order to improve my condition. The links for that are down below. So if you want to get a bit of background as to why I have come to do this treatment and my hopes for it, please see my previous video, which I made just as I was starting out a couple of weeks ago, and that's linked up above right now. But basically I have come to Romania, to Oradea, a city in the northwest of the country, to a centre called Hyperbarium, which specialises in hyperbaric oxygen therapy at the medical grade level, that is 2.4 atmospheres. So I've had my first 10 sessions and I'm just going to tell you about how they've gone, what have been the challenges, and what are the positive signs that I am seeing. And I'll also be sharing with you an X-ray of my lungs towards the end of the video, which actually showed that completely unbeknownst to me that I have fibrosis throughout my lungs, and that's something that hopefully the treatment will be able to resolve as we proceed. So I'm first just going to talk about the challenges that I have had. The first one has related to the pressurisation phase of the treatment. This is what happens at the beginning, the first 15 minutes, where they are pressurising the chamber and bringing it down to the equivalent of about 45 feet under water. And the first treatment I had, the sense of pressure in my ears was really very strong, and I had to keep clearing them pretty much every 20 seconds. And to be honest, I didn't like the sensation at all. I was really quite concerned. I thought this is too strong. I didn't feel comfortable with it, even though I didn't have any pain, but because I was able to successfully equalize the pressure, it wasn't very pleasant. However, the good thing is that as each treatment has gone on, sense of the pressurization in my ears has become lighter and lighter. And if we think of the 10th session I had just a couple of days ago, it really was much more minimal, and I had to clear my ears much less frequently. So I want to say this for people who are worried about this aspect of the treatment, as I was, that it isn't so easy the first time, but it does get easier and easier, and I'm sure that once you're doing 20 or 30 sessions, and I see some people in the chamber who are, they're kind of been doing this for a while, they seem really not bothered at all by the pressurization. They're just kind of watching a film and they occasionally yawn, but it basically gets easier and easier, and that's been my experience. So the second challenge I have had has related to post-treatment reactions. I would say during the week I had light crash-like symptoms at times, not all the time, but sometimes, particularly after the first treatment, I was a bit like a zombie. But at the weekend, when I have a break from the treatments, so I'd done 5, I went into a crash. And I wonder if that would have happened anyway. I think I overdid it on Saturday morning, which definitely played into this, so I don't know if that was part of it, but for sure my body was it was really challenged by the treatments. And, all through that first week I would get this feeling of oxygen getting into my body. It's a kind of wet, gungy feeling. It's quite strong. Reminds me a bit of what I used to experience when I went to do the HELP apheresis treatment in Germany as well. And also during the sessions, feeling oxygen getting into the body quite powerfully. However, what's been very positive on that front is that the second week of treatments have also been much lighter, and I've had very minor reactions to the treatment, and when I'm sitting there in the chamber, I still feel the oxygen getting in, but again it's lighter and it's moving towards kind of not feeling much really. So that indicates to me that my body is adapting to the treatment. It's been challenged and it's responding in a way that is encouraging for the longer term. So those have been the challenges, but really they're positives because in both cases there are signs that my body is adapting well. Now in terms of positive things that I've noted, well look, with hyperbaric oxygen treatment you can notice positive things initially, but it's more when you've done 20 sessions, 30 sessions, 40 sessions that you really see the benefits, because each treatment is a stimulus towards healing. The body then gets on with that, but you mightn't actually see the result of that in terms of your symptoms until even some weeks later. And I believe that even when you finish a full treatment course, whether that's 40 or 60 sessions, you're still healing in the months afterwards. So it's not like I've magically resolved my ME-CFS in 10 hyperbaric oxygen treatment sessions. Nothing like that. One that I'm really happy with so far is that my sleep has definitely got better. I'm sleeping more deeply and I'm sleeping more easily. And as people will know from watching this channel, insomnia has been an issue for me over the course of having ME-CFS. So it's nice to see this change. And what's been particularly interesting about it is that there have been some days where I've really not been well, like last weekend when I was in a crash. And usually when I'm in that situation, it's pretty likely that I'm going to struggle with my sleep. But actually, on both nights last weekend, I slept easily and through the night, despite not being well during the day. So that was a very encouraging sign. Another positive sign I've had, and I don't really know if I can describe this very well, but it just seems like my skin and my body in general looks and feels more breathable. It has a kind of lighter look to it. It feels softer in some way. It just seems like my tissues seem happier. Interestingly, this is even the case with my stomach, which sometimes tends to be a bit hard, a bit bloated, and it's really been quite soft. Despite following a diet at present that might, I'm kind of eating more normally that I'm here in Romania. I'm not following any specific diet. I'm eating out. I kind of avoid, things like bread or eating vegetables that I know I have problems with. But my stomach is actually quite soft. I don't know so much about the potential impact of hyperbaric oxygen on stomach issues, but one of the medical assistants at the clinic actually told me that she did about 35 sessions for Crohn's disease. The treatments actually cured her of Crohn's, which is amazing. I'd never had any thought or never knew that it could have that kind of impact on such a serious illness like Crohn's. But this person went from, she told me, having 20 episodes of diarrhea a day to, within a few weeks of treatment that had stopped, and now she's able to eat almost anything that she wants. Another positive change, which is just starting to be noticeable, it's not normal, but I'm pretty sure it's definitely happening, is that I feel like I have more saliva than normal. Now, dry mouth and, frankly, dry everything has been a real issue for me since becoming ill, likely because I have anti-muscarinic 3 autoantibodies, which are very common in ME-CFS and which actually go into the tissues of the body that produce moisture and prevent them from doing so. So I've had issues with producing tears and saliva and sweat, etc. But what I have noticed is that I have a bit more saliva in my mouth, and this is particularly helpful if I'm eating out in a restaurant, because when I have dry mouth, I struggle to eat, and I have difficulty swallowing food because I'm not producing enough moisture to help that to go down. And although that is still very much an issue, I have noticed that it is a bit easier for me at the moment to be out in a restaurant eating food that normally I would have real difficulties with. And I actually did come across a study which suggested that people who develop dry mouth after radiation, that their capacity to produce saliva improved after hyperbaric oxygen. And finally, I think I'm experiencing some cognitive improvements. I wouldn't say in any profound way, but I've had glimpses of things that are encouraging, or maybe even you could say neurological symptoms. One thing that happened last week, and it hasn't been consistent, but this is not something that I've experienced in a long time, was that after I came back from the treatment, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, I listened to a pop song. Normally I have a certain threshold for how many pop songs I can listen to at once, and it's normally about 4 songs maximum, and then my brain goes fuzzy and I can't continue, it's too stimulating. But in this case, I was actually able to listen to a pop song 10 times in a row. I'm a bit like that. I tend to, if I like a song once, I'm quite happy to listen to it another 10 times. So, but I was able to do that, and I didn't feel like it was too much. I just enjoyed it. So there was some kind of way in which the treatment was helping my brain to be more resilient to the stimulation. Now that did not continue past that evening, but I hope it is a glimpse of things to come on that front. So those have been the things that I've noticed so far. Basically, treatment reactions are getting less intense. They're much lighter. I've noticed a range of improvements in sleep, cognitively, and just generally my body feels a kind of a bit softer in a good way. Now I'm just going to show you my lungs. This was the x-ray that was done, and as you can see, I have a scoliosis up there, but we're not talking about that. We are talking about the fibrosis. So this is basically the streaks, the white streaks that you can see pretty much all throughout the lungs. It's sort of everywhere, really. And what the doctor said to me is that this would be it's subtle, because it's not like, for example, what you would get if you were hospitalized with COVID. You might have literally like whole parts of the lungs would just turn white from the fibrosis on an x-ray. Whereas in this case, it's sort of subtle, but it's pretty much everywhere. So as he said, it's subtle but diffuse. And what he says is that over the course of the treatment, these should resolve. So we'll get an x-ray done again at the end, and that'll be really interesting. And we're also doing a spirometry test, which measures lung capacity, and we'll be doing that every 20 sessions so as to keep an eye on my progress with this. That's basically it for this video. I would say so far so good. I am optimistic about where this could bring me. I'm not expecting it to heal my ME-CFS. It might feed into facilitating healing. But I would be really delighted with sustained quality of life improvements. For example, if I could, if it took a lot more to crash me, if the lung issues could be resolved, if my sleep was consistently better, if I were cognitively, emotionally more myself, these kinds of things would be great, but that's not up to me. We'll just see what happens as the treatments progress.